Live. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on the show. It's been cool to see you guys work this week. I was down the big wall at the ANU yesterday, and you guys are working away there. How's it all going down there?
It's good. It's coming together slowly. It's a big wall.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Yeah, it's I don't know what to say.
Steady and methodical, it's just plotting kind of,
Yeah, it's a
this needs to happen, now this needs to happen.
It's a very definitive process. There's not a lot of room for
I guess a lot of the work comes into the planning of it and getting it all approved and working through the getting the crane sorted and stuff, and on the day that's the fun part.
Pretty much 90% of the work's done in the studio, preparing the stencils and coming up with ideas and getting approval. But it's good to be it's nice to be just doing one thing, focusing on one thing and not having 1,000 things going on at the same time.
Yeah, getting away from the city of Sydney and
getting away from Sydney, but getting away from exhibiting. We're just constantly thinking about 50 different works and
preparing all those,
that, promoting it, trying to sell it, and
because you've just come off the back of the show at Ambush, not far from where the wall is.
Yeah, well, I actually timed the show for the mural because I knew I was going to be here for about a month.
Right.
So I just told him I was having a show.
Yeah, and how did that all go?
Went good in some respects. Like I sold most of the work.
That's always nice.
Not that I equate happiness and
Not
success to making money, but I got bills to pay. It was an amazing response from most people, but from a few other people, it wasn't particularly amazing response. Because I had a couple of works in there that were critical of the Chinese Communist Party, which were misconstrued as being racist by a bunch of Chinese students.
Yeah.
Which, understandably, one of the pieces kind of did look a bit racist.
What was the name of the show again?
Don't Shoot the Messenger,
so
which is exactly what they fucking did. Yeah. But no, they kicked up stink, rightly so. But the whole story went viral in mainland China. And the gallery took down the works. But yeah, then it went viral in Hong Kong.
That's a particularly earnest photo they got for you.
That's 10 years old. I'm glad they used a 10-year-old photo of me. So yeah, it went viral in Hong Kong too. So the hate mail turned to messages of support. Getting messages of support from my fight against the CCP. It's like I fucking painted Batman on a banknote. Like I'm not putting myself out here. But it caused a bit of controversy.
So it obviously wasn't expected, but when you are kind of working with these subjects, you kind of never know what's going to happen these days.
It's all about starting conversations, like the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in China. Like there's no secret there's a genocide going on. So painting this picture of Winnie the Pooh choking at Tigger, it's a tongue-in-cheek piss take. But it's also keeping that important issue in conversation. So I can't remember the question.
No, that's fine. I'm just think it's interesting because on one hand you got these people saying I'll bring it down, but in doing so then it becomes a censorship issue as well. Like I think we're in a place where we can be free to express our art how we want.
Apparently not.
But in some cases not, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing was pretty stressful. Like,
how so?
Oh, just getting called racist from 1,000 people in a week.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
it makes you want to say something really fucking racist.
People jumping in your social media and flooding you with stuff.
Sliding into my DMs to tell me that I'm a piece of shit. But I'd never want to attack anyone on that level with my art.
No.
Like, it's never about, that's just such a... Sorry, man, I've been spray painting all day.
Yeah, no.
Was there something
The synapses aren't firing.
These guys, like of all the works in the show, these guys just happen to be resourced to respond to it. Like it's not like this work stands out amongst all.
No, to be honest, these were the weakest pieces in the show, and I'm surprised they got any attention at all. I think it just happened at the same time as that Stop Asian Hate movement in America, like literally on the same day. So I can understand why they were offended by this piece, and that's why I decided that we should take the Batman piece down, because I didn't want anyone to be individually offended. But the gallery took down all three pieces, those two and another one. It's kind of like, hold on, what the fuck are you doing?
Was the face recognition one?
Yeah, they took that one down too.
Yeah, right.
There's nothing racist about that. I think it's mainly because the concept of painting on Chinese money is so culturally offensive to them.
Mm.
They didn't want it, but it's not culturally offensive to me, so fuck off.
And you got a few, for people, prints on sale now of those pieces.
I just dropped them online, actually. Can I give that a plug?
Yeah, give it a plug. There's some great works, man. They're awesome.
Go to elkstencils.com.au
Yeah.
/shop.
Limited run.
Well, I figure if I've got to put up with the stress of being harassed, on a global stage, I want to make some money out of it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And the it's not the first time that controversy's come your way with other
Seems to find
exhibitions. And what do you think that is? Do you think it is the
I don't think
the
I'm particularly...
subjects or the things you're passionate about?
I don't think I'm particularly outspoken, but if I'm given an opportunity to say something, I'll say something.
Yeah.
Like that wall in Bondi, the Welcome to Bondi mural.
Yeah.
That sort of came about in similar circumstance. I had an exhibition at the Bondi Pavilion, and they offered a space on the Bondi beach wall for me to paint a mural. And normally this is a process that you have to apply for and be seriously vetted.
Yeah.
But they just said, yeah, paint whatever you want, you're right. Just,
What could you possibly
what
do?
could I possibly do? So I...
That's the redacted version.
Yeah, that's the...
Yeah, so that's
the censored version.
What's happened. There's the original there.
Yeah. I only had 2 days to prepare a 16-metre wall.
Yeah, right.
So I needed something I could just replicate over and over again.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
But that was commenting on Australia's treatment of asylum seekers, like onshore and offshore. And the 24 soldiers represent, the Border Force soldiers represent the 24 suicides in offshore detention.
Right.
Since 2013.
And
didn't go down too well.
And then it was, I guess it was the Bondi locals that...
No, it was the Bondi, the councillor for
the Bondi
Waverley,
Council.
Leon Goldsman. He's the one that politicised it. He went to Alan Jones and those pricks. He used it as a way to attack the Liberal Greens coalition in Waverley.
Yeah, right.
Because he's the Liberal. So, Just got to remember we're being recorded here. I can't completely open up. But, I've got to thank that guy. He made me famous.
Because the work you did with caffeine there, was that the year before?
That was the year before, and it was a capitalist pig with his finger on the button and his bitch wife. No, not bitch, but female dog bitch. Wearing the skin of dead Syrian children. And no one batted an eyelid at that.
Yeah. That's other people's problems. That's not about us.
Oh, that's offensive. Well, they were complaining about the guns, but no one complained about the Anzac mural 3 metres down where everyone's holding a fucking M16.
And I guess the the interesting thing with this one is that it's kind of the nature of street art that once you put it up, it's kind of there for everyone, and it's no longer up to you what happens to that piece. Do you kind of feel like, well, that's just how it went, or is it kind of like, oh damn, that sucks, that got painted?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Like, surprised it lasted as long as it did.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think the people that curated that wall were going to allow it to stay up because it was so confronting. But they couldn't paint over it once it was politicised because it would have been admitting that they fucked up.
Yeah,
and the people that wanted to get rid of it couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah.
So, but
If they quietly jumped someone forward and taken the spot, it might have disappeared.
Yeah. But like nobody in power wanted that mural there. And I don't know, it just felt like I was controlling the narrative because I was the only one that could actually say when it would come down.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, no, fuck you, that's staying forever. Until someone came and buffed it.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of street art. It's an ephemeral art form.
Yeah.
You can't get too upset when it goes away.
Yeah. You kind of hand it over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the criticism is often explicit.
Get you a bit closer.
The criticism's often explicit
Yeah.
and kind of immediate, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Even more, before we'd finished painting it, people were having a go at us.
yeah.
Were you down there around that time seeing the reaction firsthand as you were painting it?
Yeah, people were coming up to us. I painted it with a writer from Sydney called Days. Just people just stopping and just having a go at us. Like,
Yeah, right.
we don't want to see that on our beach.
Was the text up early?
Text came up last.
So even without the text there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Actually got chewed out by Vexter because she painted a mural 20 years ago that said "Welcome to Australia," and it was a bunch of cops.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
I remember that one. Yeah.
Called me out on social media for being a white male. Fucking sorry. I don't know. Like that wasn't in my subconscious. Well, it wasn't in my conscious when I was painting it. It just kind of happened. But yeah, she's fucking dead to me.
And that mural's probably dead too now, I guess. It's fully gone.
Oh, I don't even know. It was just the way she handled it. It was like just attacking me. It's like, fucking, how about a conversation? Look, I'm sorry this happened. Obviously, I didn't want it to happen, but yeah.
Oh, we're doubling down. You're repeating me. 20 years too late.
Well,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
that
not-
kind of part of it? It's all the adding on of.
Well, it's
and-
not
and
where you get
reinventing
ideas.
yeah.
Sorry, I'll stop talking over you.
No, go for it. No.
It's not where you get ideas from. It's where you take them to. She painted a mural 20 years ago that no one fucking saw. This was, this made Der Spiegel in Germany.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm not apologising for that.
Well, if it bears repeating.
Well, that's it.
You're saying
know.
it again because it needs saying again too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's protest stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, like it would be easier to say I fucking stole it from her, but no, I'm not doing that.
And Byrd, your stuff is also seen all around Canberra.
Yeah, there's bibs and bobs.
Yeah,
about.
it's everywhere. You've been slowly making your way across the city.
Yeah, trying to get in the suburbs more, share the wealth out, wider fields.
Yeah, and what's your sort of process with doing that? How are you gonna? How are you going about that?
Oh, I've got a couple of little sort of self-set projects to kind of, I don't know, I need to get more exercise. So if I'm getting out, pick a suburb I haven't been to and have a wander around and see what spots are available.
Yeah,
And then circle back with something for them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you came up in Canberra in the sort of more illegal scene, is that right?
Yeah, way back. It's kind of right on the back edge of it. There was, because the council around here has always been pretty generous with spots.
Yeah,
So if you didn't, there wasn't so much you needed to take because there was plenty of spaces available.
yeah,
Yeah, not like other cities where you really got to go out and get spaces. And then by the time, you get sick of stuff disappearing quickly, so you start asking people, shop fronts, if you can use their wall, and someone sees you doing that and asks if you can do their wall, and suddenly you don't need to run around at night anymore.
Yeah.
So you don't run around at night anymore.
Yeah. And you get paid for it.
Yeah, ideally, yeah.
And what do you think the scene is like in Canberra at the moment? In that legal space, in terms of people being open to having walls done and stuff.
Yeah, there's been a huge kind of it's slid sideways. Like it's opened up. Like it was always a graffiti town, by the nature of the kind of space and just the action. But now there's a really good mix of street artists and muralists as well, and other visual art types as well, jumping in and out. And it's got that kind of critical mass where everyone recognises everyone else, and so they're valued rather than it
There's some
being
respect
completely
there.
adversarial. Yeah. So that's good. And the people, people have grown up with graffiti and street art now, are at a point where they've got income to support it, So people who own the property aren't frightened by it. So that makes it heaps more possible. Like they kind of, it's a weird, because they can see what's around, they can envision what could happen, which means stuff can happen, which means more people can see it, and it just sort of builds. So that's kind of good.
Yeah. Do you notice sort of what does happen when a spot that you've, that's a back alley or an area that's dark and dingy, what do you notice happens when people do open up that idea of putting something on the wall? Does it change the space a bit?
It can, yeah. Canberra doesn't have a lot of dark and dingy. Yeah, you're kind of hungry for, like, there's not a lot of abandoned buildings. Once the fluffies are knocked
Such
over.
a new city, yeah.
And there was that Kingston, when that was all warehouses and the government printers left. There was heaps of interesting stuff happening in there.
Is that down on the foreshore?
Yeah, where the foreshore is now. Remember when that was all like warehouses?
Oh, vaguely.
Way back.
Yeah.
And then they all moved out, and so then it was proper abandoned spaces.
Yeah, right.
And so there was some nice stuff happening in those spaces.
Yeah.
Kind of in the dark.
Is that where they had that? Remember that exhibition? Maybe it'd been like 2003, where all those Melbourne artists came up.
No, that was at the bottom of the ANU in their what's there now?
Where the museum is.
No, other side. So where the food co-op is, and those big buildings and those resis, there were these kind of fibro things there, and they were like studios, and then they were nothing for ages. Yeah, and that's where the Melbourne crew did those.
Yeah, right.
And you mentioned that the Canberra scene was kind of one where everyone was kind of part of more of a community rather than a competition type feel to it back in the day. What do you think that was down to? Was it the size of the city, or?
Yeah, it's not a big place. I mean, there was always the north-south or whatever it's called, like the south side versus north side sort of thing. But mostly that was about being young and not being able to get around.
Yeah.
So the effort of going over there was like, no.
Yeah. We got the luxury here that 20 minutes to the south side's too far in Canberra. So.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. Well, and how did you guys link up? Because you're now working together again.
Actually, I took a photo of this piece. I can't even remember where it was. It was in Civic somewhere.
Where the skate park used to be before the skate park was there, or maybe the skate park was there.
Yeah, it was my screensaver for a couple of years. Like, this is the piece that sort of piqued my interest in street art.
Yeah, right.
Because it was sort of early days, and it was around the time I started making stencils. Like, I actually have that piece tattooed on my arm.
Yeah, right. This is your first stencil, basically?
No, it was actually it was Bird's, yeah. And then sort of got in touch and lived happily ever after.
Yeah. through some forum, internet forum or something.
It wasn't Stencil Revolution.
I think it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Because I guess back then, around that time, stencil street art wasn't very big. It was kind of a new emerging
It was
element.
early days. It was
Yeah.
like 2004 or 5.
Yeah, it would have been 4-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Stencil Revolution had been rolling for a little while, and there was a lot of energy, Brisbane, Melbourne,
Yeah.
bouncing between each other. Yeah.
I think that Melbourne street art boom was 2003. So around the time of the Iraq War.
Yeah.
I think that inspired a lot of people to get out and start protesting or using their voice creatively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you find that early on then it was kind of frowned upon, the use of stencils and in the streets at all?
Depends who you ask. Like it still is to this day with some
Still is,
people. Yeah.
yeah.
But, you know, you're not going to please everyone.
No.
But it's just extremism. It's no different to religion or political ideologies. People have this belief in the way they do things, and this is the only way that we do things, and anyone who does the other way is wrong. It's like we're all using spray paint. We're just having different application methods.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But, you know, I've been the same. I'm very purist about how stencils made. You have to hand cut stencils.
Yeah.
And it's only been up the last few years I've realised, why do I do that? Why am I doing this? Why am I wasting my life? So I'm starting incorporating like laser cut stencils, especially with big murals like the one I'm doing now. It's yeah, you're sort of burning yourself out for this false belief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess you also sort of found that sort of split when you were working with your Archibald portraits, in that it's then getting accepted into art galleries rather than
stuffy institutions
on the streets, and stuffy institutions. And there was even, I think there was controversy around it being allowed into the prize and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I didn't pay much attention to it, to be honest. Do we really want to talk about the Archibald?
We don't have to, no, totally. But you've got some...
I don't know. I'm a little bit dirty at commercial galleries and institutions.
Really?
At the
So
moment.
that's still a thought in your mind.
I think I'm just a little bit
gatekeepers, hey?
dirty at the
they're
whole
good.
fucking art world, to be honest. You shouldn't have given me these beers, man. I'm going to open up.
No, because I think a lot of
knows what he's
people...
doing.
I think a lot of people see that too. Like they don't want to go walking through an art gallery anymore. They want to see it in the streets. They want to see it online. It's not where people are going to see this stuff. So I think it's a feeling a lot of people have,
Well, I
that
think
these places are stuffy.
on a community level, art's very, beneficial in, creating joy among people, and even just diversional therapy, and just adding some sort of,
Expands.
You're going to have to help me with words, man.
It's the wrong end of the day. It
It
expands
is.
people's experience of their existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
you
what I
run
was
things
trying
through
to
the
say.
filter of an artist and put it back where people can get it in front of them, and it changes the way they can see a space or a thing or their experience of their day. You know, stumbling across a sticker or a stencil or a piece,
Yeah.
throw up somewhere, changes your experience of that commute, that space you're in.
Yeah.
And it can expand you. Yeah, and that's a good thing. It's good for people to kind of...
Yeah, and that's what sort of gets people into it.
Yeah.
But sort of on the upper echelons of the art world, it's completely about control and power and money. It's just kind of gross, to be honest.
Yeah, so as a full-time artist, I guess that becomes a bit of a problem if you don't play the game that they want you to play.
Yeah, It's kind of like women actors. They're not allowed to be themselves because they get labelled as difficult. They need to be agreeable. It's the same thing as being an artist. If you don't play the game, you just get labelled as difficult. And, it's kind of like... I did an interview a couple of weeks ago with Art Tab about why I left my gallery. It's kind of like hospitality industry where they don't fire you, they just cut your shifts back until you get the message.
As in left your gallery that you were running, or
No,
what you were
I was represented by
in?
2 galleries, but like I don't have a gripe with them personally.
Yeah.
I think they've got a fucking gripe with me, but
There's something about the system. So he worked like,
Yeah.
having watched his practice, he's worked really hard to build enough of a profile to have a gallery say, we want you as one of our represented artists. And so then what you do is you land in this cycle of exhibiting, every 2 years, or I don't know what the loop was with those spaces.
it was pretty much every 12 months
Yeah, right.
because I'd have, one in Melbourne, one in Sydney.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they alternate. Yeah, right.
It's just not conducive
That's
to
a slog.
creativity to be consistently exhibiting back to back.
Yeah.
It's like you're not having a show with 30 amazing paintings. You're having a show with 3 amazing paintings, 10 pretty good paintings, and 17.
Yeah. Because you need that
Shit,
studio time to cook up the
Well,
stuff.
you
It
need
sounds-
time
yeah.
to make mistakes and fuck up, and
Yeah,
you need time for the work to mature, but you're just constantly working to a deadline.
yeah. Wow.
So I'm looking back at my entire body of work thinking, I fucking hate half of these pieces. They're so rushed.
Sounds very similar to what recording artists go through when they sign to a record deal, and then they're now locked into producing X amount of albums, and perhaps that's not the best
It's
way
like
to
the
produce stuff.
second album syndrome. You sort of toil away in your garage for 10, 15 years and you have this body of work that is hugely popular and received amazingly by the public. And then you get the gallery saying, come with us, do it for us. Do it again, monkey, now. It's like, okay, these guys can make or break me. I better do what they say, because if these guys stop giving me their attention, it's all over. I've got to move back to Kayleen.
Which
Not
wouldn't
that there's
be-
anything
wouldn't be
wrong with
too
that.
bad, yeah. Yeah, interesting. And so that has that changed since you left that kind of system for your art?
I don't know if it's part of turning 40, but I've just had this awakening. Like I've learned this new word. It's called no. No, I'm not doing that. No. There's so much freedom that comes with telling people to fuck off. Like I've created this existence where there's, apart from like the ATO and maybe my mum, there's no one I can't tell to fuck off.
Yeah, right.
And I'm exercising my right.
Yeah, interesting. We got a question here from the chat.
Oh, is there people watching this?
Yeah, there's a few people watching this. Thanks to our viewers and listeners who will catch up later.
I just got all self-conscious.
Don't worry, there's not too many people.
Okay.
Yeah, the flats is very exclusive. But I guess to both of you, what made you decide to turn? This is from Dale at home. What made you decide to turn your hobbies, so to speak, into a career, and take that leap of faith?
I've always thought, like if you're keeping chooks, you keep enough chooks that you can get eggs to sell, and then that buys food for the chooks. And it's a bit like that. Like it's something I'm doing anyway. I'm going to be doing it. There's no if, but maybe. It might as well fund itself. And so then it was a case of finding ways, like Luke's saying, he's finessing the best way for him to survive, getting the funding and doing the thing simultaneously. It's a balance. It's a constant balance. I've had a good run this year where I've managed to kind of do a bit of that knowing as well, and just have a couple of big projects. But like this one, this is pretty much the main thing I'm doing this month, just off-siding on this gig, and that's great. Rather than, there are a couple other. There's paperwork. There's always paperwork for the next thing. But
You've got it pretty sweet for the month.
Yeah. So but to do, so now you do that, and then you do the next thing, and then you do the next thing, instead of doing two things and going, I better pick up this thing and slide it in, just in case something falls through, and then nothing falls through, and you're doing 4 things at once, and that's just not worth the stress.
No.
But yeah, you fall into, like, I don't know, I kind of fell into it. Like, I'm going to be drawing and painting, and there's going to be a pile of them, and so I might as well put them in front of people and have them take them away. Unless I build my dwelling out of the bloody
It's
things.
sort of very similar. It was never a conscious choice, I want to be a full-time artist. It's just always something I was doing when I wasn't at work, and it's kind of got to the point where I was doing so much of that I didn't need to go to work anymore.
Yeah, it kind of tips, hey, like you're kind of suddenly going, I used to keep an account for exhibitions, and so I'd have a show, and I'd put whatever I managed to make from that show back into that account, and I'd use that to make the next show.
Yeah.
And at some point I realised that was the account I was living off.
Right.
You know, like, and there wasn't another account.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
And I guess one thing that you've done, Luke, is get out of Australia, and I bet travelling to some of the places you've been has been a good way to put that gallery system behind you and sort of work out what really matters with what you do.
No,
You took that with you.
getting the shits with the gallery. I think that came from COVID. Actually, I haven't been anywhere since before COVID.
Oh, that's recent. That's
Yeah.
recent.
That's only in the last. I
So-
think I left the galleries 12 months ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very recent. Yeah.
Well, I was supposed to be overseas last year for 12 months. Like I had an exhibition in Germany in May, and then I was going to go to Roskilde Festival to paint, and I had a few mural projects lined up around Germany, and then I was going to get the Trans-Siberian down to Mongolia and do an artist residency.
Wow.
So this amazing year planned out.
Yeah,
And
wow.
literally in the space of a week, it just all went. It's like, oh, fuck, what am I going to do now? So I just stopped. I didn't do anything for 6 months. I just went to the dog park, played the PlayStation, and that was it. And it was the best 6 months of my life. It was unreal.
A reset that everyone needed, maybe.
Well, it was the first time I felt like I could stop and it wasn't all going to go away because everybody had stopped. So, in hindsight, it was the best thing that could happen to me because if I jumped straight into 12 months of traveling, I was probably already burnt out at the start.
Yeah.
I was only going to be even more burnt out at the end. So, having that 6 months to just sort of unwind and, just work out what is important and the first thing is freedom.
Yeah.
You know, like the work that I want to make, I can't show in commercial galleries. Like I can't show a painting of a guy getting his head cut off because it's too hard for them to sell.
What do you mean by commercial galleries as opposed to independent sort of...
Yeah, there's kind of,
There's like artist-run initiatives where you sort of pay for the space.
Yeah.
And you pay rent and you give them a commission.
of each painting sold kind of thing. Yeah.
But there's commercial galleries where you don't pay for the space and they sort of represent you.
Yeah.
But, they take 50 to 60% of sales, which is a lot of money.
That system is kind of like the commercial spaces are a sales space.
Yeah.
So you're not going to that show expecting to be wowed and it to be a fantastic show. I mean, it should be. I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but you're expecting to take a piece of that show home as a client or whatever. Whereas in other exhibition spaces, so museum spaces and the artist-run initiatives and stuff like that, shows can be more about the show, and so the audience comes to experience the show and comes away smarter or shocked or whatever.
Angrier.
So they're not coming away with a piece of the show; they're coming away with something inside them
that lives on.
Mm.
And so it's a very different space to, like, it's done my head in trying to
guess-
do commercial shows make me nuts.
You know, the success of the show is measured by the financial success of the show.
Yeah, but it means there's all these constraints on the work. The work's got to be something an idiot can take home and put on the wall.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's what
You know,
sells, not
dogs
what's
and
what
flowers.
meaningful or what fits with the theme.
which is
or-
weird, which is really strange because you're kind of building a narrative as an arts practice. You know, oh, that's that artist who does that thing. I'd like a piece of that thing, but not that piece of that thing. You know.
Yeah, that's too far, or that's too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I like that his work makes people uncomfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable.
Not in my lounge room.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a weird balancing act trying to. Yeah. It's even hard. Like, that's even harder than just putting a show together that's decent work.
I understand not many people are going to want a beheading portrait on their wall while they're watching Gogglebox. Like, I get it. I'm not making this work for you to hang on your fucking lounge room wall. I'm not even making it for you to buy. I don't care if anyone buys it. I'm making it because it's important for me in my arts practice to use my creative voice and make mistakes, cross the line.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of having a line if you can't fucking cross it? But
Yeah.
with that commercial space, you need to get away from the line,
Yeah.
It's too dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what stuff comes out of your studio in the next little while. Then,
Oh, yeah.
you know, now that that's open, that opportunity's completely open to you now, and you're free to make those mistakes and then retreat from them and then come forward. again.
My next exhibition is going to be called Portraits of Muhammad. Maybe not.
In France, yeah.
Lakemba. But that's a joke, by the way, just in case.
Well, speaking of portraits, what is it about portraits that you're drawn to, and you keep coming back to a little bit?
I don't know. I think with the medium of stencils, you can capture that emotion in a person. I can capture that emotion in a person better than I can with freehand painting. Yeah, I've never really thought about it. I think with painting,
because you got some
portraits,
awesome. You got Bob Hawke, Ben Quilty.
I'm painting Claudia
Father
Carvin
Bob.
For this year's Archibald.
Oh, really?
So I was sitting on the couch watching. I can't even remember the name of the show. It's on Netflix. I was like, oh, Claudia Carvin would be a good person to paint. I'd love to meet her. Just get my phone, Facebook, Claudia
She like the
Carvin.
mum or something?
Yeah, it's like school something pregnant.
Maybe the kid's pregnant. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just sent her a message on Facebook, and 5 minutes later, we'd organised to meet up the next day. So it's having that access to people where you can just think of someone and say, I want to paint that person. You got that dude's number? Yeah, cool. Hey man, you want to meet up? Yeah. So it's an amazing vehicle to just meet people you want to meet.
Yeah.
Not that
And
it
they're
was
always
always that
receptive.
way.
Or-
Yeah. Not that it hasn't always been that way, but
Mm.
now it's kind of like it's not as much about expressing emotion and impressing people. It's just like, oh, I fucking want to meet famous people.
And then what's the process from there? Is it literally just meet them and then you go back and you're in the studio until Archibald Prize packing day?
Meet up and have a coffee and just have a chat. Like, I'd never paint a portrait of someone I didn't like. So, you've got to get to know them first. And, you usually arrange a sitting or do some sketches and take some photos and so, just think about what's going to work best. Yeah, you stumped me on that one. I've never really thought about why I'm drawn to portraiture.
No, it's some amazing work. So
It's just something I enjoy doing.
It's something that I guess connects with people too, like seeing those, as you said, emotions and stuff.
Yeah.
And Byrd, you're drawn to birds
Oh, yeah, more often than not.
more often than not.
Yeah, unfortunately, having called myself Byrd.
Do you get sick of people asking why bird?
That's a, what do you call it, a yoke I've made for myself. So
Yeah, yeah. You're talking to E.L.K here.
yeah. That just comes with the territory. Yeah. No, birds. I don't know. Birds are interesting. They're ugly. A lot of them, front on.
They're like little dinosaurs.
But I don't know the variety of shapes possible in birds, and I quite like also the whole thing where they're part of our space, but they're a bit invisible. So you end up with these kind of sharing a space with these creatures that you're not paying attention to.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to bring that back into focus.
Do you think they're a little bit more intelligent than we give them credit for?
It's entirely possible.
I reckon they are.
They're just getting on with their own things. Why would they engage us?
Remember I walked out of my studio once and there was a bin chicken, what are they, the ibises?
Yeah,
I sort of shoot it away with my foot. It's like, fuck off, get out of my way. I went and got a coffee and came back and my car was covered in shit. That bird knew that was my car. And he was like, fuck you.
You might get a bin chicken portrait soon.
Maybe.
That's brilliant.
Scotty Marsh has got that covered.
Oh yeah, he does.
He does
yeah,
a bin chicken
yeah,
or two,
he does.
doesn't he? Yeah.
But being from Sydney, were you across the graffiti removal day?
I was.
story?
I actually spoke to the project about it.
Yeah. So
It was
that was interesting because it just seemed bizarre.
It's been running for years.
Yeah. Well, it's
But-
always
but
been
that particular event. Yeah.
It's always
Always a
been. I
circus.
think the graffiti artists sign up for it. They just go and collect all the buff
Yeah.
and just fuck off and take it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a call from the project saying, "Do you want to come talk to us about graffiti removal day?" And this is suicide for me. Like, I have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh fuck, I want to plug my show. Get on there. But yeah, like I don't have a graffiti background.
Yeah. So it's not a.
So going on a mainstream news platform and talking about graffiti,
Yeah.
what was I thinking? But it was actually the day before. Do you remember when Facebook banned
All the
news?
news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's the day before that. So nobody saw
Oh,
it,
so it disappeared.
which was good, yeah.
Yeah, right. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'll never do that again.
But what's his name? Pulled a lot of heat
Scotty.
for you. No, Sadap.
Sid Tapia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he drew a lot of heat for that.
Sid's a lovely guy. Like,
Was he the guy that actually painted the
painted the
mural
mural.
on that day? Yeah.
Yeah.
but, you know, in one of Scotty's posts, he wrote something like, "In what universe did you think this was ever going to work out well for you, did it?"
yeah.
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 So I guess you got to be careful a little bit with what projects you take on.
Oh, you don't want to piss off the graffiti writers. It's like ISIS. It's this invisible enemy.
Not in Sydney too. They got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
This was the piece.
I don't know, it's such a...
Oh, both versions. Nice.
Yeah. It's kind of fighting fire with fire.
Yeah.
So it's kind of ironic they have the fire chief up there. He should know better.
And Byrd, you've done a bit of work for government in
Yeah.
Canberra too.
Yeah.
They seem to handle it a bit better here with than
they
than
don't-
these kind of commissions.
They don't have the numbers.
You don't do as many press conferences.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to jump up and down and say, come and check out this spot that I've just locked down. You know, it's no longer available to any of you. Like, yeah. I don't know. It's part of it was a necessary kind of thing to kind of build the momentum within the city too, to get the government on side, to support them, to get them to a position where they're now supporting the arts. So there's the programs that they're doing now are great. Like Canberra's always been good with their not always, but mostly with their available practice walls or whatever they call them. I can't remember what they're
legal
called.
walls.
Yeah, permissioned walls and stuff. So it's always been. I mean, it is everywhere, isn't it? With the dog racing and the circuses and everything, they're small L liberal, and so doing some of those legal spaces, doing some of those government commission things, even though it locks down a wall that would otherwise be available for incidental writing and other small stencils and stuff. I think it helps, like I was saying earlier, about getting stuff visible. Once people see what can be done, then they're more willing to let it be done. And then people can get better at doing it too if they're not always having to run off, 2 hours tops bolt. If you can spend a day.
People develop their art
Skills
a
are going to
lot
come up.
quicker,
That means
yeah.
what's visible is going to come up. And that's good for everyone, And so where we're at now, the government programs that run really do support quite a range of productions and stuff at all levels. So they're backing local writers, they're backing up and coming minority groups.
Yeah, awesome.
So it's a great sort of opportunity, for Canberra people to get on.
So there's no shortage in Canberra of spots.
Oh, we're getting there. Yeah. I mean, there's new stuff being built, but some of it's a bit big to get to. Some of the stuff around Braddon, there's some big shiny walls.
We've looked into that a little bit here. And
yeah.
Have you been approached to do anything there, or has any talk about that?
No, there's a lot more fly-in work now too. What is it, FIFA?
FIFOs, yeah.
So,
It's coming in. I saw a big Adnate mural.
Yeah, he come up and did one.
Yeah.
Claire Foxton's been in and out.
I know that name.
Roan, he come and did a house.
PK just did a mural in Dixon.
PK,
Yeah. George Rose is in and out.
She's based in Canberra, isn't she?
No, I think she's based in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Come out of Canberra, but who else has been in and out? Oh, the
Caffeine. Did Caffeine do something here recently?
I don't know. Nothing.
No,
big,
she did a
little things.
She did a talk at Ambush.
Yeah. The Milky. What's that bar?
Milky Bar.
Milky Lane. Yeah.
Milky Lane. So that
That's
cruise. That's all
Soffel
Soffels and Days and those guys come in.
They do.
PK come down.
No, yeah, they do all the Milky Lane
Yeah.
bars. Yeah.
So
Mad.
This was a huge one in Dixon.
yeah.
We'll have a video of this one too soon.
Oh, cool.
He's such an underrated artist.
Yeah, he.
Not sure how.
He did.
I don't think he's got
He
very
did
good
this
English.
wall in a day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not that that should hinder his progress, but I'm sure it does limit some of his networking.
It's always nice stumbling across something he's up the back of Enmore and that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's just a magician.
and he'll fill a wall, but it's not always big marks. It's just heaps of shit going on. Like, It's never big marks. It's always lots of little cuts and
Yeah, so Canberra's getting some sort of world-class stuff now, I guess.
yeah, for sure. It's good, and they got that festival cooking up for the end of the year.
What's that?
Some sort of Wonderwallsy kind of something.
No, who's running that?
Not sure. They put out tenders or something. So,
Oh, okay.
October, November. So, yeah.
Dunno.
So that'll be
I never get
interesting.
invited to those things. That's shits me.
And one piece I wanted to ask you about is your stuff with in Syria.
Yeah.
You travelled over there sort of almost in the middle of all the conflict over there.
Yeah, it was.
And tell us about that.
So I went 3 times in between 2016 and 2019. I went to Beirut in 2013 when not long after the Syrian conflict started. A little bit naive. I thought I could just go over and take a camera and sneak into Syria and take photos. But that was an expensive learning curve. So I didn't know you needed a press pass to take photographs. So without a press pass, I'll just throw you straight in jail.
Yeah, right.
This was the day after the Iranian embassy was bombed in southern Beirut. It was it was crazy. But I met up with a guy in Sydney, a boxing priest, Father Dave. I was boxing with him because we lived in the same suburb. But he'd done a couple of trips to Syria and he was organising a faith, hope-raising charity exhibition about, so he'd take a group of boxers to Syria and I put my hand up to box. Like I was more scared of boxing than I was going to Syria.
Yeah, right.
I don't box for shit. But I went over with him. I ended up putting my hand up to film because I think an SBS cameraman was going to go along, but he pulled out. So I went over and filmed for them. I just wanted a bit of adventure. You know, they say life's what you make it. I just sort of wanted to make it a bit more interesting. And I'd sort of been drawn to that idea of being a conflict artist. One of my first artistic inspirations was George Giddo's. I saw an exhibition of him. He's at the Drill Hall Gallery when I was 14 or 15. That really inspired me. But I sort of made a few connections and went back by myself 6 months later. And that was a different trip. The first trip was like, you know those North Korea trips where you've got a minder and you never get in trouble and there's always someone listening to you. But the next trip was a little bit more free range. Like we drove from Damascus up to Aleppo. This was just after East Aleppo was liberated.
Yeah.
And just the level of destruction on that drive, it's just, you can't imagine it. That's me. That's at Palmyra. So I was at Palmyra. Palmyra was taken by ISIS in, I think, 2015, and there was like a 3-month period from when it was liberated to when they took it back, and we got to go to the amphitheatre.
Yeah, right.
It's me with my stencils. So I painted a stencil of Khaled al-Assad, who was the curator of antiquities at the Museum at Palmyra, who was beheaded by ISIS when they took over the town because they hid all of the antiquities and ISIS was saying, tell us where they are, and he wouldn't tell them. So I'd been following his story long before I went to Syria. But so I painted his portrait on this door. But when ISIS retook the city 3 months later, they blew up the amphitheatre.
This very spot.
Spot. But someone was telling me the door survived and they put the door into the Museum of Palmyra. There's only one artwork in the whole museum, is the portrait that I painted.
Right.
No way.
It's easier to get work into a museum in fucking Syria than it is in Australia. Yeah.
That's amazing. So how did you end up at this location?
So Father Dave and his boxers are doing a boxing thing out there, which I was supposed to be filming, but I was like, no, fuck that. I'm going to paint this thing.
Oh, that's who's over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I just went rogue. Thought I'm never going to get this opportunity again.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a little bit self-absorbed. Most artists are. I just remember my adrenaline. It was like, because they were they were clearing landmines the whole time. So every 30 seconds you get this fucking earth-shattering boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard watching earlier that there was live fire going on around
Yeah, there were
as you were doing this.
missiles getting shot off. I've never experienced that. My OCD comes out a bit here because that's like an 8-layer stencil that I had to paint with 1 can of silver, 1 can of really watery black, and 1 can of white. I had to make
Yeah,
it
you
work.
didn't just go a little throw up piece and get out of there.
No.
you went full.
Yeah.
I can't believe that they recovered that.
Yeah. Well, I'm friends with his family now. So
Yeah.
I met both his sons, and one of them still lives in Damascus, and one's in France. Yeah, it's such an honour to have the
Yeah, it is,
opportunity
yeah.
to paint his portrait.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Mm.
And was that sort of a catalyst for sparking that charity that you've co-founded?
Yeah, so that was the third trip, I think. I don't know, you kind of get this sense of when you go to Syria that everyone that's going there has an agenda. Everyone's trying to get something out of it.
Yeah.
So it made me think, fuck, that's what I'm doing. Just trying to forward my career by doing this. It was not a conscious decision to do that, but it felt like I was getting more out of it than I was giving back. And so I decided to have a charity exhibition, raise money for a children's charity in Damascus. So we raised 40 grand in Melbourne and took it over there. We didn't take it. We went to meet with the charity to make sure they were a charity. And then I had to go back 6 months later. I had to go to Beirut and get 40 grand out of ATMs. Just going from one to the next.
Yeah.
Like $100. It's so dodgy.
Wow.
It's really hard to get money into a war zone.
Yeah, no doubt.
I never thought of that. That's an interesting
'Cause
problem to have with the charity.
We'd finally worked out that I could transfer it to Germany and the Germans could get it to them. But I transferred it to Germany, then it got flagged, frozen, and then put back in my account 3 months later. It was really fucking stressful.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't regret doing it.
What's next?
I'm going to take a bit of a break after this show. The show's over. After this mural. No, nothing planned.
Yeah, well-earned break, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I might head out to Central Australia. Just pack up the car and take the dog.
It's the season. It's a good, not too hot, not too cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spent a bit of time in Broken Hill at the start of the year.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah.
And I fucking loved it out there. It's just,
It's a funny place.
yeah, so many abandoned buildings. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Very not Canberra.
very not Canberra.
Yeah, get the staycations going. Well, thanks, guys, for popping in and having a chat. It's been awesome to catch up with you guys, and
Thanks for having us.
people can catch your mural in 3 weeks' time around ANU.
Thanks, mate.